What's up, guys? Tim Little, Matt Allen. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin, and welcome to another edition of this year's 2024 Holiday Buyer's Guide series. Super excited. Today we're talking hard swim baits.
Today we are talking hard swim baits. Now, we recently did a full-blown, in-depth 3+ hour seminar on swim bait fishing. That is not what today is. Today is just a buyer's guide. So the purpose of this video is to help you guys make wise decisions. These baits are on sale right now as we're headed into the holidays. You know, for you to make wise decisions about baits you might want during the sales, or for your loved ones to have ideas headed into the holidays. Like every video, we'll link all of this stuff in the video description for you with links straight to Tackle Warehouse. But the goal here today is to really simplify it. We went through a very long list of swim baits and looked for the baits that are the most effective in the most situations and are the most cost effective. And that's how we came up with this short list right here. We're doing it by category. So, you know, topwater, shad glides, bluegill glides, things like that, different categories. Let's run through it. You want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah, you just said everything I was going to say. But yeah, simplifying, saving you guys money, and the best baits in the category for the price. So to kick it off, we went with one topwater bait. We went with this guy right here, the Tactical 210, that wake bait. This is a bait that Matt and I designed several years ago. We prototyped it for many years. You can just see we beat the paint off of this thing. They eat it. This is a bait that it's easy to fish. You throw it out there, you wind it back, you get bit. Or you can walk it. We wanted a different feature. We wanted a wake bait that you could fish it several different ways. And then obviously high quality paint, high quality, patent stuff. there's a lot of stuff that went into this bait.
But we never even talk about. There's
yeah,
a lot of
build design, everything. But this guy right here, it looks, those of you guys that don't throw swim baits, this looks like a giant bait, but 2-pounders eat this thing. They just do. So don't be afraid of some of the sizes of these baits, because a largemouth can eat 1/3 of its body weight. They like to eat big baits. But this guy right here, again, you can walk it, you can wake it, you can chop it. It's super easy to fish. It doesn't break the bank, and it catches big ones.
All right, I'm going to talk about cover glides, baits that are designed to be fished in and around cover. Typically shallow water, docks, brush, flooded conditions. When those fish are up pushing the bank, whether that's in the spring and they're pushing up before the spawn, or that's in the fall where they're running shad up shallow and ambushing. Anytime those fish get up shallow, a cover glide is a very effective way to catch them. One of the best things about cover glides is that they tend to be very cost effective. The first one is the River to Sea S-Waver 168. This bait has been around since the beginning of glide baits. It was the first US-made glide bait, and it is effective today just like it was in the beginning. I think through so many of our fishing trips and our fish catches, even the last few years as we've moved east and explored new waters, and the amount of big fish that we catch on that Waver 168 is nuts. The way you fish these cover glides is you fish them right up tight to a visible piece of cover, and then you start twitching them to get the fish to come out and react. So they're baits that are very aggressive. They have a lot of motion in a tight space. You're not covering a lot of distance. And that's sort of what defines a bait in this category. The other one, this is a new bait from Mike Buca, the Buca brand. This is their 6-inch trick shad. Now, Mike has been hand making trick shads for a long time, but now you have a very cost-friendly, widely available option. And we got our hands on one coming out of ICAST, and it has been a fun bait to fish. It is a serious fish catcher, super twitchy, super aggressive. You can chop it and walk it, you can glide it, and you can really get those fish to commit. So 2 different shapes, profiles, but the same concept, drawing fish in typically out of shallow cover.
All right, next up we kind of have, it's a newer category for us, especially as we moved east You know, out west we didn't have a lot of gizzard shad fishers. We had some havasu and such, but out here on the Tennessee River, gizzard shad baits, or I don't even know what category you want to put these in.
Let's just call it shad glide.
Shad glides, right? They get the fish are just they're spazzes. They move quickly. They get
shad.
Yeah, gizzard shad just move real quickly. Side to side changes. They're little spazzes up shallow. So having a glide that you can get real kind of choppy with or real erratic, fish it very quickly. Both of these guys right here, kind of like the Buka brand. That is the Spro Chad Shad. That is the KGB Baits has their Chad Shad. They paired up a couple years ago and came out with their ABS bait, just like the Buka brand. It's more cost effective, but you still get that great action. So you can get real erratic. I'm thinking up shallow along grass lines, up there as those bass push those bait shallow. Those things are just, I mean, you see them in the water, and it's hard to explain.
And it's like shiners, right? Gizzard shad, golden shiners. There's so many of those larger bait fish that are just crazy. They don't swim like other fish.
Yeah, Hitch out in California kind of do the same thing too. But having a bait in that profile with that real kind of quick action is key. And again, you get swiveling hook hangers. You get some of that higher price point stuff at that lower price point. Same thing here with the Bait Sanity. That's the Chimera Shad. This is a little bit bigger profile. This bait is probably my favorite. As the last couple of years, it's probably my favorite bait to throw, whether I'm chasing big largemouth or stripers. That thing is a bait. They both work extremely well. If you just want to cast them out and reel them back, they're going to do that. Typical S glide, right? The S waver glide, but you can twitch and get that thing to dance. And that's the key, right? We're talking about cover glides here. When you come into that area, that strike zone or that area, that high percentage area, that's when you kind of add that erratic action to these baits. Or when you're wearing your polarized sunglasses and you see that shadow pop up behind and start trailing, they're kind of watching, and you get all crazy side to side. That's when they have to react. But that Chimera Shad by Bait Sanity has that paintbrush style tail. And then again, swiveling hook hangers, but the action in this bait is awesome.
So you've got cover glides and shad glides, and they're very similar, right? The shad glides are basically like bigger cover glides. Then we have what we would call open water glides. And open water glides are going to be those baits that are less erratic, so slower, wider swims. And you want that anytime you're fishing clear water where you're trying to pull fish up. So suspended bass, fish that are sitting out in a little deeper water and you've got to draw them a little farther. Any sort of a situation where you want fish to come further to get to the bait, you use an open water glide. As those baits swim slower, that gives the fish more time to get to it before it's leaving their area. Now, these particular baits, again, our criteria is cost effective and available. And then both of these baits in this category, you can still twitch them and work them to draw a reaction strike. A lot of open water glides, those big baits, you lose that ability to twitch them and draw a reaction. It's just a slow roll. Both of these can do both things. This is, again, from River to Sea. That's the S Waver 200, probably the original open water glide. Just an amazing, cost-effective fish catching bait. That particular one, if you're on a trout fishery, that's my favorite color to throw in the 200 size. And again, we'll link all this stuff in the video description. We'll give you a link to the bait and our favorite colors for every single one of these baits. This one, the Explorer from Bait Sanity, the Explorer Trout is, again, a very cost-effective, very fishy bait. You're talking, you know, half or a third or a quarter of the price of a lot of custom baits with this amazing swim. It also has a little bit faster sink rate. So for guys that are using modern electronics in conjunction with their swim bait fishing, it gets down a little quicker. It holds its depth better than a lot of baits as well. But that is an amazing bait. Bait Sanity, one thing I really like about them is that they come with a variety of tail options. So this is stock, but you have all sorts of unique tails that will completely change the actions of the bait. So we'll link a couple of those for you too. But that is, I mean, bang for the buck, an amazing full-size open water glide.
Yeah, Matt hit the nail on the head. You know, there's a lot of great baits on the market. There's a lot of long waiting lists for baits on the market, right? These are baits that don't break the bank in the category, and you're not waiting 6 months to a year to try and get it. So readily available. All right, next up is going to be the bluegill category. And if you guys have watched our videos from years past, you know that typically we don't throw a lot of taller bluegill hard baits just because it's hard. We've all seen those videos of fish choking on big bluegill or tilapia, right? It's hard for those fish to get that tall of a bait in their mouth. But these two baits really stand out in the category. So if you're on a fishery, maybe it's I'm thinking like a pond, right? Lots of bluegill, or you're on a fishery where the panfish or the bluegill are the main forage. These guys are going to work extremely well for you. First up, we got the gantarelle, the jackal. It's a 3-piece bait. Now this is a real kind of swimming bait, right? We've talked about that, just a real easy glide. But when you add a reel twitch and you give it line, or you just kill it, give it slack line, this thing does this swim and then just to drift off. It's got these hard fins, gliding fins on the side. So as you have that fish trailing your bait, or you get near that area and you kill or you pause your reel cadence, it's going to continue its glide off to the side. Getting those directional changes is key, right? That's what triggers these fish to not just kind of
be mechanical and follow it.
and they have to react, right? So that guy right there is a really different action swimming bluegill. And then this guy right here, this is the Explorer gill. And a lot like the cover glides, this is a bluegill that swims just like that, but you can get real erratic, kind of like these guys we talked about here. So again, if you're on a fishery with a lot of bluegill, or the fish are primarily eating bluegill, or you want to give them a different profile than your gizzard shad or your shad baits, these guys are, again, swiveling hook hangers on this guy, interchangeable tail, so there's a lot of adjustments or things you can change on these guys. But that is a really good, it's probably the best swimming bluegill bait out of all of them.
All right, last but not least is a multi-joint bait. So most of these baits are glides, right? That slower mechanical action. This is the Shimano Armajoint. And again, if you want to go a lot more in-depth in any category, we have a video for that. We'll link that in the video description. And this one, we should have room to include that link. You can go down the rabbit hole of every one of these categories with us. But for the sake of keeping it simple and just giving you the cliff notes of your best bang for the buck, grab them and go, and you will catch fish. This guy right here is a multi-joint bait. This is the Shimano Armajoint. This is a very unique bait. There's a lot of technology in it. There's a lot of things in it that you don't see in other baits. Totally unique joints, flash boost inside, just a ton of stuff going on. But this bait is a very tight actioned, very fast bait. So you can burn this thing extremely quickly. If fish are actively chasing shad, or if you're on a blueback lake, right, where they're chasing herring, it's incredible for that stuff. It's also amazing as a burn and twitch. Work it, burn, 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 pause, twitch, 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 twitch. This thing will dart and cut and twitch because of that crazy joint. Look at that thing, right? It will do things that other baits won't do. It also has an amazing cast because it will fold in half and fly on the cast so you don't get that tumble. I get great distance out of this bait. It's a very unique bait that stands out in its category, and that'll wrap up the baits.
All right, I was going to put this down, but I guess we'll talk about rods. So for the most part, real quick, some of these smaller cover glides, like these guys in particular, you can get away with throwing these on your favorite heavier jig rod.
Totally.
Your A-rig rod, something. But some of these other larger baits, you will want to get a specific swim bait rod. So we got a budget-friendly swim bait combo in here. This is the SLX. This is a 7/8 heavy. This is an awesome. So when you're fishing a swim bait, or when you're trying to pick out a good swim bait rod, you want something that's obviously comfortable in the hand, but you want something that has some backbone, and you want something with a little bit longer handle. That helps for when you're really casting these heavier baits. You can use that, 2 hands for leverage, and then when you're reeling it, you tuck this thing in the side, and then you get bit, you're setting that hook with your
All power.
whole body. Okay, so this guy right here doesn't break the bank. It's a true swim bait rod, has good action, good backbone, paired up with the Shimano Cardiff 300. This is a workhorse of a reel. It's a lower price point in the Shimano swim bait reels, but I caught my personal best on this reel right here. So, I mean, they work, okay? Braid to leader typically, unless you're in a highly pressured or ultra clear water situation where you can throw straight fluorocarbon, but typically we're throwing braid to leader.
At the other end of the spectrum, so Tim just gave you an amazing budget option. I mean, it will throw all of these larger baits. At the other end of the spectrum, there's one rod that stands out year to year. And if you've watched any of our swim bait videos, you could quote before we quote that this is the G Loomis IMX Pro 966. It's an amazing swim bait rod because it can throw both hard baits and soft baits. Spoiler alert, that's what we're talking about tomorrow. But hard baits and soft baits on the same rod. I often throw it on a Tranx. This year, I really have enjoyed throwing that Conquest MD. That is an amazing reel. Truly a high-end, pure power swim bait reel. If you're comfortable with a round reel, I don't know that you can get any better than this without going just off the charts expensive. It's an amazing combo. And even for the guys who don't particularly care for a round reel, this 300 size reel is so low profile compared to most round reels that it still is super palmable in the hand. This is an unbelievable combo for just day in, day out, everything that you're going to face with a swim bait rod. Now, one more for you. We travel a lot, and a few years ago, we really got on the kick of travel rods. From Megabass, this is in their Valkyrie line. We'll just throw this together for you real quick. In our World Expedition series, we find this rod. Line her up. The beauty of a travel rod is convenience, right? So when we're getting on airplanes, the beauty of a travel rod is that we know our rods are going to make it. That's always the fear when you go on a trip. It's one thing when you're going and you're flying to get in your buddy's boat, and if your rods don't make it, you fish with his. It's a whole nother deal if you're flying somewhere else on the globe and you don't know if your rods are going to make it and will ruin your trip. So that's when we started fishing travel rods, because we could carry them on the plane instead of checking them when we knew they would make it. But much simpler than that is just the convenience of throwing one of these in your truck and knowing that you've always got the chance to fish. Just a couple weeks ago, I was out with my family. We were driving around looking at waterfalls in Tennessee and just like taking in nature, right? Just a fun day. And I grabbed two of these. I've got two of them, and we threw them in and we pulled up on some good places and we did some swim bait fishing. And it's nothing. It's riding in the back seat with my kids and it's out of the way. It's not an issue. We've got that paired up to that Tranx 300. And I mean, this is a bulletproof combo. That World Expedition, it's the 711. And again, we'll link the exact one in the description. But the reason why I bring up this rod is that this rod has such a unique flex pattern. Despite being a multi-piece rod, there are no flat spots in that flex pattern, which is amazing. But this rod has incredible accuracy. I love the way it loads up for treble hooks, but my accuracy with it is amazing. In and around docks, in and around cover where I'm picking and making key casts, and I don't want to slam this into somebody's boat or dock, I'm very accurate with this rod. So I find a lot of the time that I'll have this rod on deck at home on my boat, even though it's a travel rod, just because of how effective and unique its action is. It's really a killer combo. So great swim bait rods at any price point.
So there it is, guys. Swimbaits simplified. Baits are on sale. Again, we tried to pick the best baits that are readily available in the category, whether it's a topwater, a cover glide, a shad glide, an open water glide, a bluegill bait, or a twitchy quick bait. We wanted to give you guys options depending on the fishery that you guys fish. But guys, as always, we appreciate the support. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. We will link all the stuff down below in the video description for you. Like Matt said, tomorrow we have soft baits.
Yep.
But if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you tomorrow talking soft swim baits.
See you guys.